going live, and I think we are live. I'll start us off. Let me get some links out. Hello, everybody. Going live, and I think we are hear live. Myself. I'll start. Good. Sound is working. All right. Let me just get the link out. Send it to everybody in the Discord.
Yeah, let me share the link.
Mm-hmm. All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome. I was about to say my name is Markiplier, but I am not Markiplier. I am Fritz Imperial, much to most of yours displeasure. But I'm here with a review of Iron Lung, and I'm joined today by Isaac Young, author and friend of the channel. How are you doing?
Great, thank you for having me on.
Oh.
Sorry, I was muted. Oh.
Mm-hmm. And yes, in the chat, just let me know if there's any audio issues. Just if we sound fine, good. Anyways, yeah. What's funny is I had recorded one of my old style in the car in the movie theater parking lot reviews of it, but I was really tired because it was a late showing, and I was also really cold, and so I didn't think it was that good, and I also got a day to sleep on it, so, and I have somebody to bounce some ideas off of. So do you want to do the honors and just kind of explain the basic premise of Iron Lung?
Yeah, so basically, the premise of Iron Lung is it takes place in a universe where something called the Quiet Rapture happened. Now, it might be slightly different in the movie, but the way the game explained it was basically the universe was Thanos snapped out of existence, where all the stars are gone, all the planets with useful materials are gone, and the survivors of humanity are trapped in these space stations and spaceships with dwindling resources, and it's a very grim dark setting.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the few things left in the universe are these moons. They're referred to as blood moons, and there's multiple of them. And what happens is basically they're trying to figure out what these moons are, what's up with them, why are they covered in blood, and they send people down in these submarines into the blood moons to uncover their secrets and hopefully find something that at least helps with the situation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and for a little bit of the behind the scenes, Markiplier or Mark Fishback, a lot of people's favorite YouTuber. I remember watching him intently when he was doing all the Five Nights at Freddy games. This was a huge passion project for him. He put a huge amount of heart and soul into it, and it's an independent movie. There isn't a major distributor. He's distributed it himself, and at first he's like, I can get this into 50 theaters, but it's now in thousands of theaters, and it was beating a Sam Raimi movie for a couple days over the weekend. It didn't quite make it to be the top grossing movie of the weekend, but a $3 million budget, I think it's grossed over 20 million now, so it's a pretty big success. So it's good on him, and a glimmer of hope, because man, you watch the trailers for movies these days, and it's just depressing of how they're making another Dracula movie. They just made one last year, and this one is like a ripoff of the Coppola 1990s one. And they're, of course, also making a Wizard of Oz dark psychological horror movie. But, Hollywood is fresh out of ideas, but thankfully, there's a meme that shows of like a kid with he has like a blue box, and it says, "Man, I like blue. It's such a good game. I'd be really great if somebody made a movie of it." And then it's like, "Hey, coming soon to theaters is Blue, the movie. Man, I'm so excited." He gets into the theater, and then it just shows, big budget Pictures presents blue, and it's just the color red. Thankfully, this seems to be the complete opposite because it's quite faithful to the game.
Yeah, it is. And that's something that I was both pleasantly surprised by and actually somewhat disappointed because I was really hoping for the movie to actually expand on a lot of the elements in the game, but we can get into that later. I was
Yeah,
hoping the movie would be more of a sequel in a sense, but it was very much just a remake.
because if you don't know we've gone over the premise because the start premise of the film and the game is basically the same, and Simon is our main character, played by Markiplier, is sent into one of these submarines, which they look like they were just kind of slapped together. They don't even have a proper exit and entrance. They say like we can't just let you out because we've welded you in there. And the small porthole at the front of the ship is made with glass, which in the movie they kind of explain is extremely like this uncracked glass is super rare, just kind of showing how few resources there are left, and even that they have to seal off because of the pressure. And so the only way to actually navigate is you have a map, you have the coordinates, an XY coordinates, and then an angle in terms of the orientation of the ship. You can't even elevate or ascend or descend on your own. And the only way to look outside is you have an X-ray camera at the back of the ship that you have to push this big awkward button, and it gives you a small like flash of light that he uses often to um, that he uses to light his way quite a bit and throughout the movie. Also, Charlie Kelly Esquire, do not torrent it. Pay for the movie. Support the movie. Um, this is what piracy kills. Small budget independent people. But anyways, yeah. And the game gives this incredible sense of like immediately teaching you how to navigate without being able to see. It's like if you're driving your car and all the windows are blocked by snow, and you just have to kind of figure out how to drive that way. What I also like about the movie, visually, it's a really, really good movie. Is 99.9% of the movie is all just inside the submarine the whole time.
Yeah.
And what's cool is, go ahead.
Yeah, they really did a good job with the design of the submarine. I really liked it. They made the most out of that small environment that they could.
They even like there's a little behind the scenes stuff I saw on Markiplier's channel, where he's showing, hey, they like shot it. It was like just one whole actual set that they had on like a motion simulator machine, like a large kind of card or like wooden pallet that they just kind of moved around like they did in old movies. And practical effects always seem to be to look better than digital. The digital stuff they use, of course, they had to do in the movie looked fine, but I just love the fact that we have one actual submarine.
Yeah. Um, I guess I kind of want to segue into the other really important part of the movie and the game, which is the blood ocean. Um, because that felt there was an odd difference in the game which I didn't feel in the movie, because in the game I really felt like the blood ocean is like, in my opinion, the crux that holds both the game and the movie together, because the submarine's one thing, but what the audience is supposed to keep in mind is this atmospheric weight of this unknowable sea that is outside, that they can't even look into except through brief snapshots.
Yeah, there's the fact that it's a blood ocean, which there's just the
Yeah.
kind of it's kind of like in The Shining, where you have an almost comical, like that shot of when the blood is flooding throughout the hallway of the hotel. It's almost a comical amount, but it's also so much that it stays scary of this is just something that should not be. And there's the fact that he's an entire ocean of it. And so gradually throughout the film, and the game as the submarine starts kind of degrading around him because it really wasn't meant to be underwater that long. Like more and more blood just kind of starts leaking in, and so it just kind of gives a great sense of decay. Of course, by the end, it just starts flooding up from the floor. And right at the end, he has to go through a small crawl space that's already like half covered in blood.
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, the movie, and I've been thinking about this problem for ever since I walked out of the theater. The game did a really good job of selling me on that the outside of this submarine was this cosmic horror blood ocean with nightmarish monsters,
Hmm.
and it really did a good job of selling me on the tension. The movie, much less so. Um, and I've been thinking about that, and I think I have a few reasons for it.
Hmm.
The first reason is I was the player actually experiencing it in the game, which created a much greater sense of investment on my part.
Hmm.
That I was able to buy into the concept a lot better. Second, the blood ocean in the movie, you only get really the first opening scene of something being lowered into a churning mass of blood, right?
Hmm.
And of course, some like I think a few views out the porthole. Besides that, the blood ocean feels relatively abstract. Like I can't see it. I can't visualize it
You
in my
can't feel the
head.
weight of it.
Yeah.
For me, I would.
And
Oh, go ahead. I would just say I actually
and
kind of disagree on that, and that
mm,
I can see where that you don't have the visceral feeling of you are alone in the ocean or in this blood ocean because in the movie you're just watching through the camera of Markiplier, running around the submarine. But I still think they did as good a job as they could. The fact that having a different perspective, if they had shots that were outside of the submarine, it would have ruined the whole effect. I think they did the best they could in terms of the visual effects and the camera work to demonstrate the weight. I get what you mean though, is that I think they could have done more of maybe have earlier on more of a like, oh, there's a bit of a hull breach or there's a bit of blood coming in. I mean, they have a little bit of that, but him being a little bit more freaked out by the circumstance he's in might have helped out.
yeah, I mean, I think an important because in the game there's a starting screen which we don't really usually consider as part of the gameplay
Hmm.
or basically anything to do with the game. It's a start screen, but it shows the outside of the blood moon, and it shows like the blood ocean stretching out.
Hmm.
And if we had one CGI, and I know it's expensive, but if we had one CGI shot of the blood moon in its actual, what it actually looks like,
Mm.
I think that could have that would have probably fixed my issue
I think you,
quite a
yeah,
bit.
I see what you mean. You could kind of have add to the cosmic horror there of because the movie starts out with just a kind of shot of a bunch of stars dying out and the voiceover narrating kind of the premise of what's going on. I think if they had just kind of shown the outside of a ship and then just a moon with like a big red ocean on it, I think that could have probably helped just kind of give some context or a little bit of a perception of okay, this is where Simon is going to be throughout the whole movie.
Yeah. And I get that's really expensive, and the movie was on
Three
a
million.
low budget.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I feel like that would have been really like you would have
Just put up a stock
purchased quite
JPEG
a
of the
bit,
moon.
or even like put it behind like I don't know, like if you really need something like cheap, put it behind a filter of a computer screen or
Mm-hmm.
something like that.
But yeah,
Um,
going on, I think in the movie is throughout the plot. If I can kind of take over on that, is what is nice is what is expanded upon is in the game. There's like no contact with the outside world out with like the space station above or the spaceship above
yeah,
you.
there's nothing.
Outside of initially like them communicating with the little radio, and then it just goes silent. Whereas he's kind of talking back and forth with people on the station. That's this thing that does kind of confuse me and isn't explained, is like how exactly they're supposed to recover the submarine. Like, are they on a spaceship, or like just kind of hovering over the ocean, or are they in a space station in orbit? Like,
I got the sense that they had like a claw
mm,
or something of that equivalent, or maybe the spaceship dives into the
mm-hmm,
because it was really weird because it sounded like and I may be misinterpreting the scene, but it sounded like the crew of the spaceship tried to go for Mark and dive after
mm-hmm,
him, right? And then they got taken out.
mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a thing that like I got confused about like towards the end, and it was kind of there to add tension, but I think we'll get to that. There, like what's also different from the game, and when I say it's different from the game, it's not necessarily a negative. Like, I'm actually glad that they expand on some stuff, but Simon, our main character, isn't just a random person. He is a convict. Like, with the limited personnel that the people on the station have, uh, and I think that goes into the weakest part of the movie. Might I think we could agree might be the weakest part is the
Oh
fact
yeah,
that
just Simon's character conflict.
yeah, the character conflict of the fact that he's rattled with guilt, because in the lore of the game, um, there's a couple different stations with various ideologies. I think the Eden station, or where we know that Simon was on a station called Filament Station that blew up, and he's blamed for all the deaths on there, even though he thinks it wasn't his fault. We're not really given. I'm glad that there isn't like a long flashback scene. It's just little glimpses here and there, because I think that would have really kind of ruined the movie for me, or that would have been almost a deal breaker. I don't care about that.
I think here's the thing. I'm unhappy with the mix because basically it's sort of two films smashed together into one. You have the cosmic horror element of delving into the blood ocean, but you also have a psychological horror film
Mm.
about the main character's guilt,
Mm-hmm.
and it sort of does both halfway. Because you want a psychological horror movie, but you're never you're just told and via like very very short flashback sequences about what he supposedly did. It's all very vague, and that seems to the problem with keeping that sort of those details vague is I can't even be sure if he deserves to be in the
Mm-hmm.
to be in the submarine or not. Like if I am left out of crucial facts of the case, that robs the story of so much commentary because it's all just so ambiguous. I
Mm-hmm.
can't come away with a clear picture
We also don't
of
really have we don't really understand like what is the kind of. I know we don't really want to see what the state, because again the movie kind of only works if you are just focused in the submarine, but at the same time it would be nice to kind of understand like how do the people, what is like the ideology, or like how does the station operate. Is this a their act, but that does kind of get into a theme in the movie of the fact that, so like he's a convict, he's on the station, and they're like, hey, the initial deal that they give him is, hey, if you go down and take some photos of the blood ocean, you'll be released. And he does, and that's the first part of the movie. Is like he does that, and they bring him back up, and he's like, okay, you're gonna let me go now, right? And they're just like, no, we have more work for you. And this is kind of a recurring thing that happens where he thinks he's finally done the work for them, but they keep adding more and more onto it, and it's causes kind of a crisis in him of, you know, and them. Like the other main character would be, there's a woman that we know of mostly through the intercom system, and she kind of has her own conflict of her trying to convince Simon to keep working and keep operating the submarine, all while she has to basically keep lying to him, or can't lie to him that, yeah, we're not actually going to rescue you. And so I actually think that conflict itself is enough to create It's enough to create enough conflict that I don't think you need a lot of the guilt backstory of Simon.
No, I mean, have I would have completely removed all of it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just it it wastes time because it just doesn't mesh well with the blood ocean concepts. Like where if I had a movie where it was 100% just analyzing the horror of the blood ocean and you cut out all of Markiplier's character, um save, maybe the dialogue of their interactions with the captain, I would have been much happier. Like because what the psychological horror part takes away from, I'm not I'm not I'm not grokking so much of what even the point of this is. Oh yes, the secret to saving humanity is at the bottom of the evil blood ocean. And not once am I given a very clear reason why any of the characters think that this is the case.
Mm-hmm.
I can see the blood ocean being life saving in terms of its unlimited supply of food, um, which of course then it's revealed it's human blood, but that's
Are
at the
we?
end of the movie and
How
it
are we
doesn't
told
really
it's
go
human
anywhere.
blood? Are we ever explicitly said it's human blood?
It's said in the movie. It's said in
Okay.
the movie. I can't remember if it's said in the game. I
Mm-hmm.
believe it's said in the game as well. But it's explicitly human blood in the movie. I can see the conflict being around it being, oh, okay, this is a really perturbing source of food that we might need to turn to. I
Mm-hmm.
don't see how the answer to saving the universe is at the bottom of the evil blood ocean,
Mm-hmm.
which there's ways to work around that in the writing where you say, okay, listen, we don't understand this thing, but it's literally the only thing out there that might possibly hold something. But no, the characters are adamant that whatever is at the bottom of this blood ocean is so totally worth it.
A
And
counterpoint I might make actually, and I just thought about this is maybe there's a possibility that they're at least up until the end that they're actually just lying and they're just having to say this to try and get him to do whatever they need him to do.
yeah, and I would totally 100% go for that, but that also needs to just be made to the audience, maybe in a scene,
Mm-hmm.
uh, like just because it's one thing that like everyone's constantly lying to each other, but if I can't tell what's a lie and what's truth, then all that ambiguity makes stories into a kind of a prism where the reader is just seeing, or the listener, audience, whatever, is just seeing what they want to see out of it.
Mm-hmm.
um
Not that there
and that
shouldn't
to
be
me
room
is,
for interpretation in certain cases, but
yeah, but if the whole thing is up to the reader to basically, you know, take his own interpretation away from it, then the movie is not really saying anything at all. It's just the reader
mm-hmm.
extrapolating meaning onto a bunch of disconnected pieces.
Well,
Which
go
there's
ahead.
stories that can function like that, but I didn't think this movie pulled it off very well.
Yeah,
That
like
wasn't what
kind
it
of
was going
continuing
for.
on, because I actually might disagree with you a bit there, is, or at least have a more charitable interpretation, is that throughout the middle of the movie, and I think this is, I think for a lot of people, the biggest flaw is that the movie is just over 2 hours long, and you could have easily trimmed it down to 90 minutes and not lost anything of value.
Yeah,
The middle towards the end of the part of the movie is a lot of the psychological horror of the fact that he starts hearing voices. We've seen him like basically see ghosts throughout the movie as well. Like he sees somebody else or some monster thing in the. Now there is an element of that in the game, and the fact that like in the game you're taking snapshots of various things across a map, and one of the entities is called, like, I think it's called the anomaly, and it's just this kind of bright kind of star shaped light, and
yeah,
they expand upon that in the movie, and I'm okay if that's kind of the trigger for a lot of the more, I guess, supernatural stuff in it. But the problem is that that's kind of mixed with the fact that Simon is haunted by guilt of all the people that are dead that is blamed on him. even though we don't actually know whether or not that's true. So what is cool though is that because they lower him back down there because they took a picture of a skeleton of a giant, sea or Blood Creek ocean skeleton, and they're like, we want a sample of it, and so you got to go in and ram it. And in the course of that, he starts seeing things. He thinks that the intercom is broken, that there's a hull breach and all the while the oxygen levels keep depleting, and he's hearing voices, and he thinks they're coming from another sub that had already crashed. And so he goes there, and I think that's where the entity or the anomaly is. And he's gone way off course. Like, one of the things I really liked is him just trying to figure out where to go just by kind of tracing on the map, because that's exactly how it is playing the game. And so when you see on the map that he's gone way off course of where what's already been charted, that kind of adds to a lot of the fear. But what we don't know is that, because throughout the movie he's also being stalked by a big, sea monster, and we don't know if that's also if it's like in line with the anomaly. That's never really made clear up until the end, or if it's all in his head. But I think that's where you kind of have a lot to say about it.
It's like there's just so much ambiguity. Is this a movie about Markiplier's psychological guilt? Is it about a hive mind sort of entity influencing his thoughts? Is it about like oxygen deprivation? Mm-hmm. Like, you could point to all these different things where I can't. When the movie is getting to the point where I can't even lay out the basic facts of what's happening, there's very little I can draw from it besides this is probably a mix of everything. And
they probably should have just picked one.
Yeah,
they probably should have just picked either have him be racked by the guilt and the sea monster out there doesn't have any telepathic powers, or there is a telepathic sea monster out there that's just kind of creating things and luring hhim into different places. Kind of like an anglerfish. Which it kind of looks like, but yeah, he wakes up somehow days later, like the captain of the
which isn't explained at all.
Which isn't explained how that happened, because he had lost. He even says, I don't know, I still have like 1 bar of oxygen left.
And then on top of that, I believe there's a scene in the movie where it goes back to 2 bars. And I'm like, that's like the one concrete plot device you have to measure tension.
That, and also
I can't even tell whether it's like I now even that's up for grabs in terms of like, you just destroyed the tension, because if you can go up, down, sideways, then it kind of doesn't even really matter anymore.
Also, if he's been asleep for a few days, he would have died of dehydration by then.
Yeah.
Like, we do see, and there's a couple little comedic moments here, is that there's like a first aid kit or a little survival kit in a panel.
Oh, yeah. He gets a life vest.
Yeah, there's a life vest, and it has like a light flashlight on it, but it's operated by water. And he's like, shit, right, but because he had just drank like the emergency water ration. I also like, it's a nice little character thing of, like, he's got a bunch of cuts and like wounds on him, and there's medical alcohol in the first aid kit, and he's just trying to figure out what do I do with it. And then of course he decides just to drink it, which is of course in a survival situation is the last thing you should be doing. But
also it's I actually quite enjoyed that, because like in that sort of hellish situation, I could totally see someone doing that.
Like him having to physically interact with like the constraints of the sub. I think they do take that.
That's where the movie shines.
Mm-hmm. There's the fact that the camera at the back of the ship, where it's his only kind of lens to what look like. That's of course where a lot of the good horror stuff comes in. Because you see, one of the best parts of the game is, all right, you're looking around, you see a big skeleton, and you also see like a fish or a big monster face, and then you take another photo and it's gone. And it's like, that's creepy. But he uses that stupid light like multiple times just to light his way, and he even figures out, hey, there's some tape in the in the emergency kit. I can just kind of tape down the light and so it'll keep going. Now, how that has like unlimited power, I don't know. Because it's revealed to be pretty powerful cuz it's not just a camera, like when he's
Yeah, it's radiation.
Yeah.
I don't. Here's the thing. I enjoyed that sort of thing, even though it's kind of stupid that you have a spacefaring civilization. They couldn't even give him like a flashlight, like a proper functioning flashlight for what they know is going to be a dark space. I kind of let that slide. I was like, you know what? This is a fun thing to mess with. So
it's working
I'll
within
just
the
say,
it's working within the constraints of the of what the game has. So
yeah, I'll just say this is such a slapdash job that, like he's welded in. It's so comically grimdark. I'll go with it.
they
That,
couldn't even they didn't have another light to put in there.
yeah.
But
Or
what's also great,
he's so not meant to survive that they didn't bother.
and you wonder too, is because we learned it's not in, and it's kind of a clever explanation of when he's first brought out of the ocean. He accidentally or in anger like just kind of presses the camera the take a picture button, and they all start freaking out because it's an X-ray machine, or it's shooting.
Yeah,
like,
that's
and it's like, yeah, you've kind of just given us all cancer. And it makes you think, like, does he get cancer from it? Is he insulated?
it does say when he flips through the manual, there's a scene where it says repeated exposures at your own risk. But here's the thing: how powerful is this damn X-ray? Because it doesn't take a lot of radiation to get a regular, medical X-ray. Like all the I do have somewhat of a background in radiation. I'm not a scientist by any means, but I was taught about a bit how these things work. Like the doctor just has to go to the other room, and he's mostly safe. Like X-rays, I don't believe are that powerful. At least not the ones used for imaging like that.
Yeah,
And he'd be completely safe within that metal sub if it's as bulky and as durable as it's portrayed, unless the radioactive materials used are actually just like in the compartment with him. But if they're on the outside in the camera apparatus, then he should be completely safe.
yeah, I would say, as well as like if it's like a lead lined, like it wouldn't. Yeah, I would think he would be safe on the inside. It does make you question because
completely.
towards the end, like he's covered in blood, and somehow or for some reason, like the again, that's where it's not clear of, is the blood magic blood that like turns you into William Turner's dad in Pirates of the Caribbean, where you get kind of fused to the ship, or is it just kind of in his mind where he's taken he's unwrapping his bandages and is like got these like tumors or marks on his arms, and now I'm thinking, is that just because of the radiation? He's already got tumors like that.
Yeah, I see. Here's the thing: I can't I honestly, the later mutations show that it was the blood ocean. Actually, yeah, like I wouldn't, unless they're doing like space radiation magic. Tumors don't. Usually, how you die from radiation poisoning, unless it's extremely heavy, is you get a bunch of really like red skin, like a rash.
Yeah.
You get nausea, vomiting, dizziness. Actually, also severe diarrhea if your gastrointestinal tract.
Now, to be
gets
fair, he
melted,
was
which is the most sensitive thing. But after that's a latency period most of the time, where you're actually fine for a few days to a few weeks. So, yeah, he would, given the amount of time that the movie takes over, he would have no problems at all for the radiation, most likely. Unless it was so catastrophic that it was melting his neurons.
But
then
again,
you're
I don't
talking-
think it's that much, because again, he's inside of a giant metal cage, a literal iron lung, and the camera flashes are going out of the ship, not inside of it.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think it's just
Again,
getting he's just getting back the light from the image being taken. But it's a nice explanation of, yeah, this is an X-ray. Like, yeah, the people on the station probably aren't going to be too happy. Let's say it is a really powerful X-ray. But anyways, that's a tiny nitpick. The bigger issue is, like, as the movie goes on, he's way off course, but he reports, like, hey, I found the wreck of the previous sub that you sent down. And they're like, okay, we finally have to say, hey, I guess what happens is the ship has there's a ship computer that's defunct, but he finds a letter from the previous occupant that like, hey, before he ended himself, is that the computer can be turned on and it can connect to the black box of the other ship, which is kind of a way I can accept that it can just download the data into the current ship as a way so he doesn't have to leave the ship.
yeah.
And so that becomes kind of the MacGuffin, is the black box of the Iron Lung, as like the water keeps
Here's the
flowing
problem
in.
with the MacGuffin. I don't know what's in it. Like at least with the MacGuffin for like let's say Lord of the Rings, right? Usually when you have a MacGuffin, you want it to do a couple of things. A MacGuffin's defined by an object, or well, basically, yeah, it's an object that everyone wants, and it's used to drive the plot. But in this case, I have no idea why everyone wants this MacGuffin. I don't even know if it's really valuable.
It's
I don't know
data.
anything about this MacGuffin besides, oh, it's literally just what everyone wants.
It's the data is that because and like we even hear the last transmission from that other sub, and they're just going completely insane, uh, because they're like right near the anomaly or the sea monster. And again, that's another thing that maybe that's like I had an issue with, is I want to know, is is there two entities trying to lure him in, or is it one? Is it the giant sea monster and the anomaly, or is it both, or are they like one thing? And that's never explained, even though that's the main antagonist of the film. Is that he's also,
Yeah, I mean, oh, sorry.
you go ahead.
So, I mean, in Twitter, I was arguing with someone who's like, "Oh, this is all supposed to be Lovecraftian, incomprehensible." Okay, you know what else is Lovecraftian and incomprehensible? Just show up a bunch of random images in front of the screen and give no context whatsoever. Just like you ever seen the film Event Horizon by any
No, I
chance?
haven't. I should though.
Okay, all right. There's a bunch of hellish scenes in there. But basically, do that. Take it 11, run it for 2 hours of just flashes of random things that are just completely horrific. That would fall under the context.
Oh, so
of
like the boat scene
Lovecraftian and
in Willy Wonka.
yeah, yeah. Just do that for 2 hours, and all right, fine. I will give to you that would be horrific and Lovecraftian. Is it any good? No, not as a story. It's just it's a psychedelic episode.
Having some, like, here's the thing, like there's the joke that Lovecraft was like, oh, Cthulhu or this monster was indescribable, now let me describe it for a few pages of what it exactly looks like having more clarity of the sea monster, of him being like, okay, it's obviously really big, like you get more and more shots of it as the movie goes on, and then he realizes, okay, it can also, like, let's say that's where they want to go. They just want to say it has telepathic powers and it's just trying to lure him in like an anglerfish. Fine, but at least establish, okay, where Markiplier is able to understand, okay, is this talking to me or is it in my head? And then kind of realizing, no, it's playing a trick on me.
Yeah, I mean, again, there are 100 different ways you could take the mystery boxes this film lays out. The key thing is developing the mystery box to where there's a causal chain that turns these abstract things, these ambiguous things, into something real and tangible enough to make it compelling. You don't need it all clearly, like, 100% this is what, you don't need everything to be 100% clear, but you need but ambiguity is the death of authenticity.
Hmm.
Um,
Now,
it's the death of something being viscerally like real. Like
mhm.
when you see the shark in Jaws, for example, right? You know the shark's off screen well when you're in the ocean, that famous scene where he goes down to check on the boat. You know it's somewhere. It's viscerally real. All right, it's a
Hmm.
real shark. Now imagine if that shark had telepathic powers, could teleport, and could attack people on land. Suddenly, the shark is just this abstract thing that's just terrorizing the people, and
There's
not an actual shark. It's not a real thing.
it reminds me of is how in Halloween Ends, the second to last of that trilogy of the remake of Halloween, like when it basically was revealed that even after everybody in I can't remember the name of the town, but Haddonfield, like kills him, shoots him, stabs him like hundreds of times, he gets back up again. The fact that he's just revealed to, oh, he's just immortal, you can't do anything, that actually ruins any of the tension. Whereas before, when you just see, oh, we went, like, where did Michael go? And he's gone, and there's ambiguity that like, that's so much scarier as opposed to, I guess, we added this superpower onto the sea monster as opposed to just there's a sea monster, we kind of vaguely know what it is, and there's limits to it, so it feels more real, as you said.
Yeah.
Like if it
And
being,
that's
go ahead.
that's the bedrock of horror. Like the bedrock of horror is the implication.
Hmm.
And if I don't understand the it's always sunny in Philadelphia meme, but it is true. It is okay. I am in this blood ocean and there's a sea monster hunting me versus I'm in a blood ocean, but I don't know what's real. I don't know if there's a sea monster. I don't know if there's even really an entity. It might all be in the protagonist's mind. I don't know what anything about the monster is. Besides, I saw some scary images on the camera. I don't even know if it's the same monster. It loses like with each layer of ambiguity, it loses that crystal
It goes from
terror.
it goes from fear to confusion,
Yeah.
and when you're confused, or it's like there could be an idea of disorientation of what's going on or something, but when that's the whole movie and you're like, wait, like there's a million things that could be happening, they should have just picked one.
Yeah.
And again with MacGuffin is how exactly like what possible data could they have on that thing from that ship that would like save humanity, and also like at the end it feels like just to kind of ramp up tension, like as the ship is going down or the submarine is filling with blood, and like Markiplier is like losing all the oxygen and everything, like she's like screaming over the intercom of you got to get,
To get the
and
black
I'm
box
like,
safe, and
wait,
I'm like, I don't know how he's gonna protect the black box.
or it's not so
I
much
don't think
that
there's anything he
it's
can
more of like,
do.
why does she sound like everything is in distress? Like, I get that, okay, they
That's
think it's
true.
that important. Yes, she's gonna be screaming for him to get that in, but it's not so much desperation as it feels like something else is happening on the ship for some reason, even though that's never kind of shown to be a thing that could happen. Maybe like the other members of the staff on the ship are like, no, you can't do that. Like they even kind of remark like, you're going against protocol. You can't just promise to let him go. But because it obfuscates, I guess, a bit of a this is going to be my very charitable interpretation about the movie of the idea of like what is the theme, and it would be about kind of trust and you know dare I say faith, in the sense of you have of Markiplier having to have first off like stop being like, this is my very charitable interpretation, right? And feel free to pick it apart when I'm done, but is he's able to kind of let go of his own guilt by the end and confront this happened, but he has a chance to do something greater. Like she over the intercom is constantly saying like, this isn't just about me or you, it's about something far greater, and him having to put trust in that, having to put trust in the fact that you know initially him having to put trust in the fact that they're going to let him out, but he can't really do that because they keep lying to him. but having the trust that what he recovers, what data he recovers into the black box, and making sure that it's recovered is going to save humanity, and it's worth him dying. That's kind of the charitable interpretation of it. I'm wondering what you think about that.
Yeah, I mean, I would really love that to be the crux of the movie. Here's the we get back to the psychological horror elements of his guilt, right? Because this could be a movie about a convict finally giving up the denial that he doesn't belong in that sub. Let's say he did something really, really, really
Yes.
terrible, and he actually was completely responsible for blowing up Hillman Station. He was just denying it. And as that denial fades away, he realizes that he needs to redeem himself, and he does deserve to die in that sub, but he can make a difference and save mankind. That could be the story that it was trying. That could be a story that, like, if you pieced it together differently, which I think would be a really strong beat, even though it's the same beat as was it? The Callisto Protocol. Yeah, that really terrible game the Dead Space developers made. I don't want to talk about it, but it's still a good beat.
Yeah, yeah. There's a clear, it's a clear kind of hope. Like, I'm fine that there's a more hopeful ending, because, like, I get it. It's a movie. You kind of need some kind of more of a hook rather than, okay, this is just a depressing, you know, yeah, you die at the end in the game from fish attack, but he does. That's another thing that's not explained. Again, frustratingly, is there's so much for a movie that has such a long running time. There's certain things that get way too rushed. That, like, okay, like, he gets the data from the black box. Like, now what? Like, there isn't, like, a thing of wait here and hold out until we get you, or you have to make it to these coordinates, else the thing is filling with blood. It's more just, okay, everything is gone tits up, the monster's attacking, make sure that the black box gets out. I don't how. Like, it managed, like, go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, wait, just to circle back for a moment to talk about, the theme of the movie, what's trying to convey. Because if Markiplier's character wasn't really guilty, then that completely destroys the read I just gave you. And that's the problem. It's there's so many contradictory elements to the film that they destroy the reads that that you could plausibly take away. But to get to your point, I think if I was to summarize the problem of the movie, and I think this was a problem actually stemmed from the game, because we can pick apart the mechanics of a movie all day long. Like, I think it was like Plinkett's reviews. He's asking, why is a trade federation stopping trade and going to war? Something like that. Maybe Red Letter Media, something like that. A lot of YouTube critics, what they do is they go in and they analyze the minutia of a film, and try to fix the individual mechanics. Whereas I take a different perspective. I like a far more holistic approach. I view mechanical problems as more of a symptom of a greater issue at play here. And I think the problem that really holds this movie back is the source material, the game Iron Lung. That was the same name. Where
David Szymanski?
I don't think I don't think the creator really had any answers to the mystery boxes that he set up. I think they were just all bits of a cool setting he wanted to tinker with, but he didn't have any clue as to how they connected or the spiritual meaning behind each individual element. And so when Markiplier goes to make the film, and it strips away the player investment that the game had, what's left is something that is so ambiguous because there was never any real depth there to begin with. Not that I think that's a critique on the game, because I think the game does get away with it because it's the player making the choices. But when it's when you're removed and it becomes a story, instead of the player in this terrifying situation, that's when it needed commentary.
You know how this can kind of wrap around very nicely? I just thought about this. Is what did Markiplier get really famous for doing a Let's Play of?
Honestly, I have not followed Markiplier at all.
Have you ever heard of a little game
Tell
called
me.
Five Nights at Freddy's?
Oh,
Do you know what the big problem with
uh,
that series is? Is that despite the developer Scott Cawthon being a devout Christian himself, there is kind of a lack of like. First off, very few people have actually played the game. I have never played the game and never will. Um,
I played the game, but I was in like middle school or high school when that came out.
but anyways, like that's a series that also lacks like what is the actual point and theme and spirit behind any of this, as opposed to okay, it's a mascot horror game, great, and then it just kind of felt like he retroactively just kind of added a variety of like he gave everybody a bunch of Lego pieces and said and like didn't give them any directions and said okay, hey, MatPat or YouTube, you
Yeah,
figure
fix
out
it.
you connect the dots and do this together. It's like okay, that works when it's Dark Souls and you actually can figure out what's happening and there's actually sort of a theme behind connecting everything. Whereas if you have a very disconnected of as that you're making up as you go along. Did you ever hear about the television show Lost?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's a theme here of having the magic mix mystery box, but at some point you actually have to have something interesting inside of it, and I think that's probably the biggest issue with this movie is the fact that you have the MacGuffin, we don't really have a concrete conception of what's inside of it, and the fact that we don't know the nature of the actual antagonist of the movie being, is it all in lay head or is it the monster? You could say, well, the ambiguity lets you bring your own interpretation to it. No, you can have certain aspects that you can interpret, but it should all be coming from one source.
Yeah, I mean, I will say that you can have a plot where a lot is left up to ambiguity. You ever heard of Gene Wolfe's book, The New Sun?
I haven't read it yet. I need to read. I need to read Gene Wolfe. I have not been a good reader for a long time. I'm only going through Lord of the Rings now. Well, I've read it before, like 15 years ago, but
So, I guess before we get into that, so there are actually four different ways to tell a story. All right, and I feel like a lot of authors are really biting off more than they can chew. But to get into the four different ways to how to tell a story, the first way is you tell a simple story in a simple way. So think like a children's book, right? So it's a simple plot beat. Maybe there's like, one or two, three, four characters, right? And it's told in a simple way where it's a linear progression of events. And there's only one POV, right? Now you have a simple story told in a complex way where, like, let's say the plot elements are themselves, think Pulp Fiction, for example, right?
mm-hmm.
It's you can it's very easy to follow, but it's told out of order. It's like the individual elements are simple, but they're told out of order. And in the way the director Quentin Tarantino tells it out of order, gives it new depth instead of it being told simply linearly, because there's meaning to be found in the complexity of the way it's told. All right?
Mm-hmm.
Or you could have a complex story told in a simple way, where I guess probably Lord of the Rings would be an example, right? Linear, but there is a lot of world building, right?
Mm-hmm. Or the way I think of it, because I've heard about like there's these four different types of stories as well. It is
Yeah.
that you have a fairly simple, straightforward story of you know I feel like my own view is I feel like a good story you should be able to be explained in a single sentence. It's like what is the plot? What is the basic plot of Lord of the Rings? Frodo and Sam take the ring to Mount Doom and save the world. There you go. but contained within that, there is a myriad of themes and thought-provoking elements.
But here's the fourth way: a complex story told in a complex way. And this is what a lot of authors try to do without realizing what sort of makes those stories work. Because not only are you dealing with highly complex ideas, but you're also dealing, possibly different POVs, different perspectives, different interpretations. A lot of it's ambiguous. Sorry, ambiguous, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in order to make that really compelling, I found is number one, the surface aesthetic of the story, like for example, in Gene Wolfe's book, The New Sun, there's a lot of elements it plays with, but the prose is such that you can enjoy it on an aesthetic level, even if you can't really grok some of the higher ideas. I need to stop using grok.
I don't
Elon
even
Musk
know
is
how that's
freaking
used as a
infecting me.
verb.
All right. So the way grok is, it's originally from Heinlein's novel,
Mm-hmm.
Stranger in a Strange Land, which means to comprehend something, to
Okay.
really know the essence of something. Um, yeah, I was thinking about that lately, and that's why I'm using that word so much. But all right, so it has to work on that level, but also in a way, it has to, in order to tell a complex story in a complex way, you have to account for the innumerable way people take away interpretations from your story. And the vast majority of those interpretations have to be satisfying and reveal new and interesting things about the story.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you have to take everything into account when you tell a complex story in a complex way in order for it to really succeed. And that's why only a certain level of genius and artistic savant can do those sorts of stories. Because when I take away the frame of, Mark Plyer's character, this is a film about, his psychological guilt, right?
Mm-hmm.
That comes across as a very one dimensional beat. I mean, it's a good beat, but it's a very one-dimensional beat um, of a prisoner reconciling himself with his guilt and basically coming to terms with he deserves to be in there and he tries to redeem himself. That's a one-dimensional beat. It isn't very flavorful.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it doesn't really do anything for the rest, and all the while the elements of the story that have nothing to do with that one-dimensional beat are now missing from the picture. They don't really add anything. They don't add anything together from that interpretation. Um, Similarly, the aspect of the cosmic horror of the blood moon, right? When you try to mesh them with the psychological horror perspective, it doesn't add anything to the cosmic horror of the blood moon. It just makes things very confusing. And meanwhile, it wastes time if you're interested in the zone ones,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, like, in order for it to work, each interpretation would have to account for all those elements, and through each variation of the theme, would have to generate a completely new whole that's equally satisfying, which is it's extraordinarily difficult to do.
Yeah, I think, and again, I think that just kind of circles back into the fact that had they just kind of chosen for what this movie is and what Iron Lung is, they should have picked one, and preferably it should have actually not related to the character's own guilt, but the actual cosmic horror that's happening around them.
Yeah.
They could have explained far more, because this is a, and I think that might be the most disappointing, is that a lot more of the world could have been explored in this, because it's an interesting fast. It's like, okay, hey, all humanity is, everything in the universe outside of a few things are wiped out. All right, I want to know more. The ultimate question is, why did this happen? How did this happen? And is there anything that can be done to make sure humanity survives? That's the interesting thing about this premise. And they just kind of say, "Oh, this data for some reason will answer all of this." and we
Yeah,
have no inclination of to how.
and it, you know, like even if it does, like at all, like this data could be completely useless. Which again, if the data is completely useless, and this is a tale of just this really, really grim, dark, nihilistic,
That would have been more
this nihilistic
ballsy,
story
but
of this guy being told to have faith in something that's not really real, and he deludes himself into it. That's a really dark story, and again, doesn't really add anything
yeah,
to the
and
overall
it's
picture.
like if the whole thing was okay, he's able to put faith in that. It's like okay, we kind of get the idea of okay, yeah, the MacGuffin will help humanity, but the problem is that we have to have some understanding of how. It's like we don't. It's like hey, if you destroy the One Ring, it will save Middle Earth. How? I don't know. You just have to kind of trust. It's like
No. Yeah, it goes a step beyond that. It's like we're not even sure if this is the One Ring, but Frodo, we need you to go to Mount Mordor and throw it in the Mount Doom, just to make sure. And even when we throw it into Mount Doom, we're not sure if it works. That's sort of the
all
level
the time
of
you're going to
ambiguity
have
we're
all this
working
guilt
at.
over the time that you bullied Sam, and you're going to be seeing ghosts. Oh, but yeah, I think is there kind of any more aspects of this you want to talk about or?
Well, I do want to end
go
on
ahead.
some positives, right?
Yeah, I think
Because
we've been unfortunately we've been
it was ultimately
overwhelmingly.
a 7 out of 10 for me. Like I
That's
enjoyed it. I went to go see it with my brother, right? And yeah, it was. Here's the thing: a 7 out of 10 movie is worth seeing in 2026 because for all the movie's flaws, they were very understandable flaws. They were flaws that came from, I think, a bit of, I don't want to characterize it as incompetence, just
inexperience.
basically like a first project, if you will. All right, we all make mistakes in our first project, right? Those were the sorts of flaws that were in the movie. Not something like horribly malicious, like something like Captain Marvel, where it's deliberate propaganda that's designed to be subversive.
The thing that you can say about this movie is that unlike 95% of Hollywood movies made today, you can tell that the developers or the producers and the people behind this film don't seem to actively despise the people that are supposed to be watching it.
And that sounds like a catastrophically low bar, but it is something like it is something to see and something to enjoy.
Yeah, and I would say
Project.
it's not slop. I would say this is the fact that
Yeah,
what this is a passion project. This is something he really wanted to make, and he wanted to make it independently, or he made it independently on a low budget. And the thing is, what's nice about it is, like, I don't think we talked about this. Is I think Markiplier is a fairly decent actor. I think he did a good job. Like,
I think people criticize his performance as wooden, but I think that's from the structure of the film, not from necessarily his acting skills. Because there's his I don't think that his character was very well developed.
I think my view, and this is just my pure speculation, is that he felt like, this is my chance to make a big movie about this, and I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to do something like this again. I want to both, show off an entire range of emotion and acting and a performance, and I also want to have all of these different ideas for the movie, and that's kind of how we got a 2 hour and 7 minute movie with kind of too many larger elements outside when they should have just picked one.
Yeah, I think the star of the movie really is just the submarine, because a movie is not just an actor, right? You have the soundtrack, you have countless artists working together, and I think the visual artists were really the stars of the show. I think that's where the movie really shines, is just the environment of the submarine, the clever little ways Markiplier interacts with the environment. all that good stuff.
Yeah,
I think the people who put that in and did all that work were the real stars of the show.
yeah. There's that, and the fact that this is not a YouTuber movie. This does not it. This is very much passion project, not vanity project. Like he does a lot of good stunts in the movie. Like he lets himself get covered in blood. He doesn't shy away from all that. What was what was funny is that I was in the theater and there was a lot of Zoomers, younger people around me, and you have me, the fat old boomer, with my popcorn having to sit between a bunch of 20 somethings because for some reason the theater was packed on a Monday night. But when Markiplier in one scene takes his shirt off to inspect himself, there was audible excitement by the women behind me. Because Markiplier's a handsome man, I will admit that. I don't know why I brought that up. But point is that his actual performance is quite good, and he doesn't feel like he's incredibly vain about stuff. Like he has to look like perfect in every scene. But
yeah, if you look at like a YouTube movie, the Smosh movie is a YouTube movie.
Or yeah, I don't know. I know it's not.
I hate that I know about that internet lore.
Or anything that the Nostalgia Critic makes.
Yeah.
All of that is just I could not. You could not pay.
No, this actually feels like a real movie. Happens. Yeah. This is an indie movie that happens to star a streamer rather than a streamer movie.
This is it's something that he actually really cared about. Like he loved the property. But yeah, that's Iron Lung. I think as much as we kind of dogged on a lot of plot issues, it was less that there wasn't enough to chew on, it's that there was too much. And if you still just want a nice horror movie, that's different. And the thing that's the best thing I can say is it's different. It's not another Dracula movie, because I don't know if I said this before we went live or afterwards, but yeah, there's another Dracula movie coming out. There's a million. Another thing you could say, and this is what every YouTuber has to say, right? Is, hey, no jump scares. I don't think there was a single jump scare in the whole movie.
I think there were. I remember there being one or two. I would have to watch it again to. I think the scene where everything explodes at him might constitute a jump scare.
There was some good visuals, I will say, even with the at the end when we finally see the big sea monster eating the ship. I kind of liked that shot, but I just wish there was a bit more build up and exploration of it beforehand.
I wish I knew anything about the sea monster, what it did, or why was it there.
What was its tax policy?
Anything. It had such great designs. Like the images from the camera. It is like the artists were putting their heart into it. It was like 100% effort. Yeah, again, I want to reiterate my point that they were the stars of the show. I just wish the narrative helped them more helps them deliver those elements better.
But yeah, I think that's about everything we wanted to say. If that's okay with you.
Yep. Does anyone in the chat have any questions?
Yes, chat. Like to speak now or hold your piece. I forgot to put it in the description of the video. I'll put a comment to post your stuff if you want to kind of tell people who or what you are.
Yeah. Do you want me to do that right now, or?
Yeah, you can do that now.
Oh yeah, I am a sci-fi and fantasy author. I run a Twitter account where I do a lot of cultural commentary, but I think the primary thing I do is I write sci-fi and fantasy books. I have a dark fantasy book called The Domes of Calrathia, which is available on Amazon. I'm recently releasing, it's still in the Kickstarter, it will be on Amazon in the next few weeks, a book called Dead Men Running, which is a superhero dystopian novel. And then I also have a novel called The Last Human, which is currently only available in audio form on my YouTube channel and podcasting platforms.
Yeah, I've actually only started listening to it today, The Last Human, and I'm quite enjoying it. It's a nice little dark sci-fi setting. But yeah, I will link your stuff in the description. Thank you everybody for watching. Thank you Isaac for joining me. I will see you guys next time.
Thank you.
Yep. All right.